Somewhere I feel it in my soul. One chance is everything we've waited for. It's our time, so let me take it home and knock it out of this world.
And what is Flag Day? We as Bajans are going to celebrate who we are and why we are welcoming the world to our shores for the World Cup finals on Saturday, June 29th. Yes, I would have wished the West Indies made it, but even without that, we are going to know how to welcome people.
Barbados is gearing up to host the ICC's showpiece T20 event, the final of T20 World Cup at the Kensington Oval. No homeboys will compete in the final, with West Indies, USA and England all being eliminated, leaving just two teams to do battle for the coveted trophy. South Africa are into their first senior global cricket final and will be hoping to extend the history by lifting the trophy, but they'll have to fend off a fight from India, who have won this trophy once before in 2007 and are hunting their first international cricket title since their ICC Champions Trophy win in 2013. While the excitement surrounds the cricket, Barbados is enjoying the economic gains from hosting this match. Chief Coordinator for the T20 World Cup, Noel Lynch, breaks down the statistics.
Between the 1st and the 23rd of June, we got 36,000 plus extra, 36,000 visitors on island. And we projecting that by the end of the month, and this is numbers on the books up to the 19th of February, obviously bookings, that we will finish somewhere in the region of about just shy of 40,000 visitors, even more than we had projected.
All right, we look ahead to the play on the field and we also dissect the World Cup's benefits to the region. And joining us to do so, none other than the man from Trinidad and Tobago, Fazir Mohammed. Good afternoon, Faz. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Still trying to work out though how you included England as one of the homeboys in your introduction, but I'll leave that alone for the moment.
Well, I'm going to have to talk to my producer about that after, so thanks for bringing it up. So Faz, let's talk about now the economic impact of this World Cup taking place in the Caribbean and of course the final taking place in Barbados, and you know how it just affects our economy.
Well, for the majority of our territories, the ones hosting this World Cup, tourism is the driving force, and therefore you can understand why it's so important to really have the facilities, the supporting infrastructure, not just the cricket itself, which is the main attraction, but the supporting elements. And Barbados is a classic case in point. That's why they've hosted the 2007 Men's World Cup Final, the 2010 Men's T20 Final, and now the 2024 Men's T20 Final happening tomorrow, God willing. So they're past masters in that regard. And it's really up to the authorities to be happy with the numbers. As we just heard from Noel Lynch, it sounds very encouraging. It sounds as if they're going to have better numbers than they had forecasted. But at the end of it all, they will have to work out whether the outlay, the amount of money that was put out to win the rights to host a final, to win the rights in some of the other islands to host key matches, if it was justified. And that's a valid argument, because for many skeptics, they look at these situations and say, okay, we're seeing the visitors, we're seeing this, that, and the other, but how much difference does it make? What is the net difference? It's nice to tell us how many are coming, how much money they're spending, but how much has been expended to facilitate this? Is this a significant net profit, or is it break even? And therefore you could say, well, okay, if we're break even, it's worth it. Or if it's a minor net loss, it's worth it. So I think at the end of the day, it comes down not just to the numbers, the gross numbers, but the net numbers, and also the reliability and the credibility of those numbers.
Yeah, and of course, you know, it's something that I'm looking forward to see if provided to us after the World Cup. Sometimes there's an analysis phase and a breakdown, so we'll be looking about to see if we get our hands on a copy of that. Now, to the cricket and the conditions in Barbados. You know Barbados very well, and you've been covering the cricket for some time. Some stats say that it has a lot in store for the fast bowlers. There's also the threat of rain. What do you have to say about the conditions when it comes to the Kensington Oval?
Well, based on what we saw for those Super 8 matches played last weekend, it looks as if it's the sort of surface that not as nice and true as St. Lucia. I think it's all agreed that the surface presented by Ken Crafton, as he's done for many years at what was formerly Beausejour, now the Darren Sammy Cricket Stadium, is absolutely the best. When you talk about pace and bounce and an even performance in that regard. Kensington Oval isn't too far behind. And therefore, it's the sort of surface that I think is going to encourage both batsmen and bowlers. And that's why if the weather doesn't play a significant factor, I think we're going to say at the end of it all, not just that the better team won, but the venue, the pitch, the surface did justice to the final, because you've got two unbeaten teams who've got to the final in contrasting ways. South Africa had quite a few narrow escapes. India, by and large, were dominant through much of their run right up to the semi-final just yesterday. So they will go into it brimming with confidence. And again, if the weather holds, if it allows for a full 20 overs per side, it should make for a really good contest. If it's a Titan fixture, if it comes down to a minimum 5 overs, which will be a real pity, then it will really be a free-for-all. But I'm hoping that the weather is kind enough to allow for a final that does justice to the occasion.
Yeah, Faz, you know, one of the things that has been on my mind is which of the two teams has the edge, right? Because I want to lean towards South Africa, and I'm only saying that because of the fact that they've been put themselves in some uncomfortable positions in this World Cup, and they've been able to come out, of course, with victory. But then I'm thinking that, okay, India has so much firepower, both with bat and ball and all these different things. But I'd love to hear from you. Who do you think has the edge when it comes to these two teams, and by what margin?
Well, at the risk of contradicting Nikhil and his excellent analysis yesterday, I'll go with India. Okay. Because I just think that they have all the firepower, all the tools, all the confidence as well. When you look at the way Rohit Sharma has gone about his innings, it's almost as if it's not so much devil may care, but it's almost as if he's making a statement that, look, this is what we're going to do. And whether it's me or someone else, or whether it's Virat Kohli failing morning, noon and night, doesn't make a difference. And therefore, there is that feeling that you see reflected in their performance, that whatever score they get, it's going to be enough. Because one, they've got the quality batters to produce it. And more importantly, they've got the quality bowlers. I mean, Jasprit Bumrah, his performances so far, I mean, you expect him to lift the game taking on Pakistan. We understand that. But Jasprit Bumrah has been fantastic. The wristbands, we're looking at Kuldeep Yadav right now. He's been superb. So the way their attack is balanced, Arshdeep Singh, one of the leading wicket takers in the tournament. They are oozing class everywhere. The one factor is the one between the ears. Maybe not between the ears so much, that's the head, but might be the heart as well. As far as the expectation, the fact that they went all the way to the 50-over final and were well beaten by Australia last November the 19th on home soil, where it was supposed to be a massive celebration at the Prime Minister's Stadium, and it turned out to be anything but. This time around, it's at Mia Mottley Stadium, and we'll see who will be the celebrants this time.
Yeah, I take your point, Faz, and I've felt from before the tournament that India were favourites here. They're currently ranked #1 in the world in both white ball formats of the game, ODI and T20. But a lot of respect coming in here for the South Africans, Faz. Their captain, Mark Crum, saying in a pre-match press conference today that he feels that his team can win from any position, as he spoke about the team winning close games and the togetherness in the squad and their desire to win their first World Cup. So that is a narrative that has to be respected coming into this final, isn't it?
Absolutely. Even if he didn't say anything, Lance, you again look at the quality of that South African team. That bowling lineup is almost on par with what India have. And again, the situation with Afghanistan on that surface, the Brian Lara Stadium, people are always very sensitive about criticism, but let's face it, that was not a fair surface for that encounter. But South Africa's bowling attack is absolutely lethal. The fast bowlers, the spinners, and you mentioned Markram, and we talked about this before the match a couple matches ago, when Kagiso Rabada didn't come on until the 18th over, because he recognized that it was a surface where the spinners were holding sway, and therefore he seems to be the sort of captain. And again, of course, he's been bred for the captaincy. He captained South Africa to the under-19 title in Dubai in 2014. So he was seen as leadership material from then and even before then. So now to see him in full flower, taking on that responsibility, going against the grain, and in fact, winning those narrow matches are very much against the grain for South Africa, will tell you that they will not be overawed taking on India. In fact, they will be telling themselves it's the Indians next door who will be shaking with anxiety when they will be going out there with nothing to lose, basically.
Yeah, and you just hurt my heart there, Faz, by reminding me about Markram leading South Africa to the Under-19 World Cup, because, of course, 2 years after that, Shimron Hetmyer led the West Indies to the Under-19 World Cup title, and right now Hetmyer's career is not where Markram's career is, which is, you know, a very frustrating thing for me to think of, because I think Hetmyer has so much talent, but it's not, you know, transitioning in the way that I had wanted it to. But now that you've spoken about that, Faz, the comparison between the two captains here, because Rahul Dravid, the India coach, spoke very highly today of Rohit Sharma's leadership of this India team, and I had spoken to Nikhil about this yesterday as well, that both captains have displayed very strong leadership skills here in building their teams into winning machines.
And it reinforces the point about captaincy. We've lived with the comment for about 40 years now that anybody could have captained the West Indies team of the 1970s and 80s because of the quality: Greenidge, Haynes, Richards, Richardson, and so on and so forth, Holding, Roberts, Croft, Garner, etc., etc., etc. Anybody could captain that team. But again, we are seeing now, look at the quality that both teams have, and look at how much emphasis is being placed on leadership and the ability not just to coalesce when things are going well, but to rally the troops when things are going wrong, to get people to focus, to fight, to really rally for each other and understand that it's about representing your country, it's about giving your best shot, it's about backing each other to the hilt, it's about doing different things, it's about doing strange things, but knowing that it's your captain and you believe in what your captain is doing and you buy into it completely. And you get that from a Rohit Sharma. When he walks out to bat, you get the message that, look, I am batting for India. If I go first ball, it doesn't matter, because I am going to play the game a certain way, and you better be prepared for it. And if I get off, I'm going to give my team the perfect start. I'm not going to be daunted by whatever challenge you're presenting. In contrast, Markram seems to be much more low-key in the way he goes about things, but clearly it's no less effective, because again, South Africa has a different culture, a different history, a very, very recent experience of apartheid. They've just come out of an historic general election where the ANC lost a majority for the first time. So now it brings a different atmosphere, environment, and feeling in South Africa, who put a lot of emphasis on the performance of their teams. Their rugby team have been world champions for the last 2 tournaments. Their cricketers stand on the verge of a first global title since 1998, when they won with Hansi Cronje, who was subsequently disgraced. So really, there's a lot tied into it beyond the immediacy of this match.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize as well, Faz, and you touched on it briefly when you spoke about how South Africa have been able to get the results they've had, because if you look at the tournament stats, Rohit Sharma is the #3 batsman in runs scored so far. Archetype is the number 2 in bowling in wicket taking. South Africa with no player in the top flight as far as the stats are concerned, which is an indication that they've used a really strong team effort to get where they are.
Precisely. And if I could use another analogy, remember France in 1998 winning the Football World Cup final without a proper centre forward?
Yes.
And many people said, you know, how do you do that? Again, it's about the sum of the parts. We've talked about New Zealand and their cricket, but in the same way that they may not always be at the top of the table in runs and wickets and averages and what have you, but it's the sum of the contributions. If you look at South Africa's bowling effort, the way it was shared around in that semi-final, 3 wickets, 3 wickets, 2 wickets, 2 wickets. So it's about taking on the responsibility whenever it comes to you and understanding that it could come at any time in the field and possibly with the bat as well. Because if you lose an early wicket or two, depending on it's a right-hander or left-hander, you might want to shift it around without appearing to panic. And that's really where the captaincy, the backroom staff, which is what Aidan Markram talked about after that comprehensive victory in the semi-final, saying it's not just about the captaincy, it's about the players who don't get into the final 11, the support staff, the coach, everyone else. And I think that's why there appears to be a really concerted buy-in to the philosophy of this team.
Yeah, and just before you go, Faz, I know you're not a betting man, but if you were, how much money would you put on Virat Kohli finally coming good in the final tomorrow?
$5 TT.
Wow.
You sound pretty cheap, Faz.
We can't buy anything with
I've
that.
been cheap all my life. Why change now?
All right, Faz, we're all anticipating a classic final on Saturday at Kensington Oval in Barbados. I can sense that the atmosphere is going to be, you know, really, really tremendous. I wish I would have been there. But it's going to be good, and we'll review it on Monday. Thanks, Faz. Always great talking to you on the SportsMax Zone.
Pleasure. Take care.
Yeah, break time. We'll be back with more after this.
This moment is all that I've been dreaming of. Somewhere I feel it in my soul. One chance is everything we've waited for. It's our time, so let me take it home and knock it out of this world. Out of this world where we going. Out of this world, yeah. Out of this world where we going.
So we say we go and win, cause there's no way we giving in. No giving up, so we say we go and bring all of the fight where we are from within. No stalling, so we do it brawling. I can hear the